Greetings and welcome to the Introduction to Astronomy. In this video, I am going to walk you through an example syllabus for my class, and this is just what I would generally do at the beginning of the first day of the semester, kind of go through the syllabus and explain a little bit about the class and what you can expect. So, information provided here, you can see general information. You can ignore things like the specific courses and the semester because those may not apply to you. And of course, I do use this for Astronomy 103 and 104. My syllabus is roughly the same. There will be some slight differences perhaps, but overall it's pretty close. Now it has my information and my email for you, as well as my office. It also gives you specific office hours, times that I'll be available by email or on campus if you want to visit. And if you give me a little bit of warning, we can also set up Zoom meetings if you prefer during those times. Our textbook that we use here, and you can access it. I've given you the link for the free textbook here, and lab online simulations that we will use. Now, I'm not going to go through everything in detail, but let's just show a little bit. We have the course description, what we will be learning in this course. We have the learning outcomes assigned for this course. And then here I discuss specifically my office hours. And I will generally hold them by email for this class because it is an asynchronous course. But during those hours, I am watching my email closely and will generally be able to respond within that time, barring some emergency or being unusually busy with students. So normally I can reply to during those office hours. And unless there's something else, I will make sure I finish and reply before I leave for that time. You're also welcome to stop by my office, especially during the regular semesters. If you're coming by during a summer or winter semester, you may want to reach out to me first just to make sure, as schedules are often a little bit different. Now, I've given you the textbook there, so you have the textbook. It's free to use. You have a copy. You can purchase a hard copy if you want. That is not required. You can just download the PDF version if you want. You can use the online version, which actually allows you to take notes, which is great, right in your copy of the textbook, essentially. The lab software can be used. I do note that you cannot install the software on certain devices, such as an iPad or an iPhone or other tablet or a Chromebook. In that case, you need to download them. You need to use a Mac or PC. However, there are simulations that are online that you can do with all devices, including the ones listed here. So if you're using one of those devices, it just means that you can't download and work on the labs offline. You have to use the online simulators. The math in this course, there is very little math. You might see some things that have to use scientific notation. We'll have to do some calculations for our observations, but I will go through everything that you'll need. You do not need to know, even though you'll see trigonometric functions, you do not need to know any trigonometry. I'll show you which buttons you need to push, essentially. If you know the trig, that's great, but it's not a requirement. Assignments. So let me break down what the assignments are. We have 3 unit quizzes. I've broken the class into 3 units. These are worth 25 points each. They are just multiple choice questions covering about 6 or so chapters worth of material. In these cases, you do get to take the quiz 3 times, so take advantage of that, as the highest grade will be the one that is recorded. So taking it a second time can't hurt your grade. Our midterm exam is worth 50 points and will cover the first 3 lessons. So there are 7 main lessons in the class plus the final exam lesson. The first 3 cover the midterm. It will be based on multiple choice questions based on the textbook and lectures will be the first part. And the second part will be based on the labs and questions that may involve you using the lab simulators. The final exam will be very similar, but is worth 100 points, covering lessons 4 through 7, and that will be broken down exactly the same way. Now, of course, labs are very important in this course, so the labs and activities are worth 210 points. There will be 7 of these, 1 in each of the weeks. So we'll have 7 of those. And ignore this 9 here. I will have to correct that. There are only 7 discussions. So there will be 7 discussions during the semester as well. And you can see labs and discussions can end up being a larger percentage of your grade than the exams. So if you look at the exams, the midterm final and the unit quizzes were worth 225 points. That's almost the same as just your 7 labs and just your 7 discussions. So make sure you're focusing where the points are. You don't want to just overly focus on the midterm and final. They're only worth about 15% of your grade. So, whereas the labs and activities are worth over 20% of your grade. So, not saying they're not important, but they're not where you want to really focus all of your energy. Labs and lab work is much more important. Now, as we look through those, again, the lab work is going to be various simulators that we use. They are split up into 2 parts. Each lesson covers 2 weeks. So in the first week, you would have a worksheet to do, and you would submit that for me to review. The second week, you would look at what feedback I've given you and complete the lab quiz. So that is the thing that is actually graded, is the lab quiz. The worksheet is really for you to be able to understand the simulator. Discussions we'll look at, and you want to do, the discussions are due the first week of the block. So, as we'd say, I divide things into 2-week blocks. That first Saturday by 6 a.m., you need to post your discussion. And then you have about a week to go ahead and complete your responses till the next Saturday. And then I do require that you read at least 50% of the postings that have been made. So I try not to go overboard on that, but I do want you looking at more than just the couple of posts, the 3 posts that you happen to respond to. I want you to take a look at what everybody said. So I use 50% as a guideline, and we'll get slightly less than full credit if you have not reached that. You have, again, a word limit here. I don't like doing word limits, but I think it gives you an idea of what I'm looking for. So 250 words for your initial post, 75 words for a response. And again, when I look at those, I'm looking for your content as well. So giving me 80 words where the first 20 of them are just saying how good a post was is not going to receive full credit. So I'm really looking for some actual content there. If you want to say things like good work, and I've seen people try to write good work in 2 sentences, take 2 sentences to say good work, that's fine, and you're welcome to do that, but I'm not counting it toward your word content. I'm looking for 75 words that actually contribute to the discussion. We have also some observing projects, so let's take a look at those. Our big one is the solar observation project, and I have these split up a little differently here, but the solar project worth 160 points, the sky observations worth 45 points. Again, that's another 200 points. So if you think about that, our observations and labs all put together are really worth a big chunk of the points in the class. That's over 40% of your grade. You don't want to skip those. This is what the course is a lab course trying to be able to help you to be able to better understand and do types of experiments like this. So, our solar project, which I describe in much more detail in another video, so I'm not going to go through that here, is making observations of the sun over the course of the semester. Again, you've got to start that early. The whole write-up is not due until the end, but what you need to be doing is to be making the observations. And again, see the solar observation video for more details there. Sky observations, 45 points. I ask you to submit it 3 times during the semester. And essentially, I have you look for the moon. Pretty easy to see. You can always see the moon. And the constellations or stars. And I ask you to submit photos of these and discuss a little bit about what you were able to find. You really can be surprised with just your phone camera how much you're able to pick up. Often if you use dark mode, that seems to work well for a lot of students. And taking a slightly longer exposure, try to hold that camera as still as you can, but you can get some really nice images here. What I warn you with here, weather. Yeah, the weather does not agree. However, normally you will have 2, 3, even 4 weeks to be able to get these observations. So keep that in mind. Just because it got cloudy for the few days before the assignment was due does not mean that there's going to be extensions on it. There are rare cases where I've given extensions, but usually those are in the compressed courses where we simply had a completely cloudy week in the area and could not get any observations. So in general, you've got 2 or 4 weeks to be able to get your observation in. So you want to keep that in mind. You can get started on them early. You don't have to wait until the assignment is coming due. Now, the other thing in here is the article reviews, and yes, I have an error there as well. It is 2 article reviews that you will be doing, not 3 anymore. And again, I have detailed instructions in another video, so don't worry about that here, but you'll want to look at that, and I will give you a list of articles to be able to review and to read, and just trying to get a little more current knowledge in astronomy. Now, let's go ahead through as we look at the rest of this. The last thing here is the homework. Homework is 25 points of extra credit, so it's worth doing. And in this, I'm actually experimenting with AI resources and have you look at that and see how well or how poorly it does. And you'll find some very interesting things there. Again, there's 4 of these worth 5 points each. So it's 20 points of extra credit that you can earn here. Submitting assignments. I do not accept emailed assignments. You have to submit everything through Brightspace. Through our learning management system, I do not grade emailed assignments. Now, I qualify that. In an emergency, if you simply cannot get it to submit and the deadline is coming up, do email me the assignment. That way I know that it was done on time and I won't be marking it late. I still need you to submit it through Brightspace D2L as soon as you can. But that gives you the chance that if you're running up against a deadline to at least get it to me. For submitting assignments, for most assignments, you can submit Word format, Doc or DocX, or PDF format. When you're doing the labs, I ask for PDF only, just for convenience in terms of grading them. It makes it a lot easier for me. So there will be deductions in terms of other formats being submitted. Now, late assignments, we all run late. Things get busy sometimes. I do have a very strict deadline on this, and that is generally 6 a.m. of the day the assignment is due. However, if you're running just a little late, I only take 5% off for the first hour and only 10% off for the first 2 days. Now that applies to any assignment except for discussions. Discussions on the final exam may not be submitted late, mainly because the final exam is at the end of the class and there is no way to go beyond that. And discussions, just the nature of a discussion, really does not allow for extensions on it. So discussions do have to be submitted on time, but any labs or other assignments can be submitted late with deductions of between 5 and 50%, up to, once you go past 7 days, no credit being given. I do qualify here when you're looking at a quiz. It's the time you submit it. So if you start the quiz 2 minutes before it's due, and you're not submitting it until after, it will still be considered late and subject to that 5% deduction. In terms of excused absences, the only things that I take for excused absences, which is why I give this very relatively easy late assignment submission, is if you have an accommodation approved through Student Access Services, that's perfectly fine, or a medical excuse provided by your doctor that says to excuse you from work or school for a period of time. Other issues would be still subject to the deductions. I know that things happen, but that's why you have 2 weeks on each assignment. It's a 2-week block, so you've got plenty of time to get it in there. And while other things can happen, usually they do not tie up an entire 2 weeks. So that's why, again, most assignments, you've got 2 days with only a 10% deduction. Okay, now let's look at the rest of this. My grading policy here just splits up the number of points as I've gone through and divides it on pretty much on a straight 90, 80, 70, 60 scale. We do not round grades in the class. I give you some extra credit, as I've talked about briefly, and I do allow for some late submissions that keeps you from completely missing assignments. So I really round your grades up a little bit, and I don't adjust things beyond that. I note that only letter grades are recorded. We do not record numerical grades, so there is no difference in your grade between getting a 90% and a 99.9%. It's both an A. HAC does not use a plus-minus grading. It is simply A, B, C. Just so you know that, I do not give out numerical grades simply because the class is not designed to be numerically graded. Attendance. Attendance, how do you measure attendance in an online course? It's not simply logging in. You have to be actively participating. So the discussion boards, posting on the discussion boards, completing the graded assignments. That means that you're attending the course. You can log in and look at everything else you want. That doesn't count as attending the class. So essentially, once you've missed 15% of the assignments in the class, and by that I ignore things like extra credit, but 15% of the graded assignments, you can be dropped from the class, and that would be dropped with the failing grade. So again, you have to actually be working on the class, not just logging into it. I go through the plagiarism policy here, which is, again, plagiarism not acceptable in the class. What you're looking at, I give you essentially a warning the first time and a 0 for that assignment. And then a second would result in a letter grade reduction, and a third instance would be an automatic F and removal from the class. So again, do your own work is really the important thing there. AI policy, and this has of course been getting very big to tie into academic dishonesty up above. You cannot use AI to complete assignments. Now, if you want to use AI to help you refine something or to help you with some research, it's not a bad way to kind of brainstorm ideas. But I do run assignments through various AI checkers. I use 7 or 8 of them, depending on which ones I'm using at the time. And if I find that it is consistent, that it shows that it's being generated by AI, then we discuss that. You would immediately get a 0 on the assignment. Generally, on the first time, I give you the opportunity to redo the assignment. And beyond that, it refers back to the academic dishonesty policy back up above. Again, some people want to use this for grammar, or to check spelling and grammar and things like that. And that's really not necessarily a bad thing. But what you want to do is, in those cases, for example, if you're doing it as a discussion, I say, just email me that. Here's my discussion post that I wrote, but what I'm posting up there has been adjusted by AI. I've used AI to either translate it, maybe, or to redo the grammar, or to give me better wording. And that I don't mind as long as I know about it in advance, but I have to know about it. Otherwise, if it's flagged as AI generated, then it's going to end up being a deduction. Incomplete grades, coming up next here. Incomplete grades generally apply if you miss the very end of the class. It's generally the final week or two. And it is an unexpected, documented event that really kept you from completing the class. If it's something that's starting at the beginning of the class or 1 month in, then generally you're better off withdrawing from the class and taking it at another time. So the idea of an incomplete isn't to make up half the class, it's to make up the last couple of assignments that you weren't able to finish. And you have specific policies set by the college for that as to how long you have to make that up. W grade, if you wish to withdraw at some point before 70% of the course meetings, then you can get a W. So other than that, if I have to drop you, I assign you an F grade. I automatically do an F grade. If you want a W, the student has to initiate the drop themselves. And then we'll look at our class schedule. As I said, everything is in 2-week blocks here. So for example, for a fall semester, it'll tell you what we're covering, the chapters we're covering. Any assignments that go into a Dropbox would be here. Any discussions that we have here. Quizzes would be here, and any extra credit opportunities will be visible here. So you have all of those different things, and again, everything is the same from week to week as we progress through the class. So we essentially will have 8 lessons here. The last one's a little different than the others. You'll note there's no lab, there's no discussion in this last one. It's really the final exam, plus a last homework and the second of the article reviews. So it kind of splits things up a little bit there, but gives you a few different things to do the final week of class. Now, again, most of what's here, I'm just going to scroll through. This is just college policies that we include and things that I've talked about specifically for the class already. In terms of the ending here, I really want to look at the coordinators for you and the student access services. So if you have a disability that requires accommodations, these are the people to reach out to and who will help you with anything you need for the class. So they will be able to get your accommodations set up in there for you and approve those. Once I get accommodations, they are approved, but they have to be approved and sent to me first. I can't go back to previous assignments if you get them approved halfway through the semester. So again, if you're going to have accommodations, if you had them in high school and you want those to carry over, these are the people to contact. You can reach out to whoever is convenient there to your campus, and they will be more than happy to help you get set up. So that really was kind of walking through the syllabus there, as I would do in the first day of class in an ordinary class. Please always email me or contact me during office hours if there are any questions or anything else that I can assist with. So until next time, have a great day, everyone, and I will see you in class.